they're changing my voice. Part of why this video has to be made is that they're drastically changing the way people look. And even if they only change the way I look, it still has to be made for people to understand things and for me to try to get the message out, even though almost certainly isn't going to get out. So here we see, as you see, it's labeled right here, Nigerian military. Okay? They're filming me heavily right now. It kind of feels noxious. We see Dambe, which is a northern martial arts. I don't do that martial art. I don't do Igbo martial arts either as such, but transcendent hero. There's from an Igbo patriarchal line. Anyway, you see the way they're shaped, the way they have a certain seriousness about them. Okay, here's the East African Somalian warriors depicted, right? See how they're not as strong as these guys. Now, some Somalians are bodybuilders, but when we look at frequencies and numbers, Nigeria is a much more populated place. A lot of Nigerians typically are big guys, but some are smaller guys. Okay, but you need to understand that the reason why these guys look like Western boxers or something, African American boxers, is because that Nigerian gene is dominant, and it's also the numbers, right? Okay, so let's go over here. You see me doing a front kick with the left leg. Look carefully. That's the left leg. I labeled on this one. Left leg. Okay? In my edit it was basically perfectly straight, kicking with the ball of my foot. Here we have a Taekwondo black belt out in a street fight, okay, which causes, him to kind of kick in an unorthodox manner. It's easier to kick in an unorthodox manner quite often than to kick with perfect form in a street fight on the cement, right? So consider terrain, right? Concrete, right? Background check, so to speak, kind of the wordplay, right? Your back and your ground, lateral movements, so on and so forth. So anyway, here we have my left leg again. Here's John Jones, a UFC champion, doing a kick with his right leg that he lands because people are nowhere near as coordinated as I was, okay? And he's a few inches taller than I am and much less coordinated, so I'd easily outmaneuver him. And much more agile and surgically strike, where he kind of strikes in a kind of unorthodox way. Okay, so that's that. Okay, now I want you to go back here and you see how I grew up in a very serious kind of, I didn't grow up with these people, but my African side of the family, a lot of more serious guys. Okay, my uncle is big, my dad's big, my other uncle fought in the Nigerian Civil War, and here we have, a lot of these sorority people, their parents were in sororities too and fraternities, and they're a lot less serious, okay? And when we look at this again, a lot less serious, and you see how it overlaps with this stuff right here, this kind of sex cult stuff, because sororities are basically run by sex cults, and how much they get turned out depends on who, what, when, where, how, why, but certainly they're being groomed for the corporate setting for erotic desire, right? The Greek societies, the deity of love in Greece, right, was Eros. In Rome was Cupid, right? Eros for erotic desire, stupid Cupid, right? Eros is where we get the word erotic. Okay, and Inki is also a key part of what these occultists tend to worship. Inki is a deity of semen, fertility, mischief, right? Magic, and so on and so forth. And these people are dealing in kind of magic tricks, hey, psychology kind of stuff here. Pretty straightforward, right? So you see that they're not that serious. They're not serious warriors, okay? And a lot of Westerners or frat guys who aren't that serious, you make faces like this, and they're purging people, right, by their actions, by their cultures. People are starving to death all over the world because of their global policies and their proxy wars and so on and so forth. Okay, this is part of why he goes out saying that these guys can never be seen as ideal in reality, right? No one's going to believe that because of all the horrible stuff that goes on, all the foul parts of their culture. Where in African martial art culture, again, these guys have a different martial art philosophy and do a different martial art than I do, or I did before I was fumed and poisoned to such a degree. And some of these guys in the military and so on and so forth. These guys are more serious and divine, where these guys are kind of corrupt and manifest destiny-ish, and they edit my pictures and so on and so forth to confuse things. So when we look at the leg kick, right, Skywalker, Skylock core, the way I move, I had another picture. I'm going to have to do another clip. We'll get to that. Okay, you see how I resemble Will Smith. I am legend, right? I am leg end, right? Legend, okay? Skywalker, Skylaw core, Skywalking, Skylaw king. Again, there's people starving all over the world, while Westerners are making faces like this, and in frats like that, acting arrogant and purging people, and they may as well be acting like this, okay? And real quickly, You can see here when I'm compared to these guys after being fumed and poisoned, you can tell I could easily beat them in sparring in a single combat and so on and so forth. And so it is when we see the physical and kind of mental toughness disparity between these guys and these guys. Pretty straightforward. Okay, as promised, you see here, you know, they changed the pictures to make it so I look weird and fairy-ish or something, but in this original picture, you could really tell that I had strong lateral movements. In this picture, you can kind of see that, you know, I'm fast on my feet, right? I used to play basketball for years, so on and so forth, okay? And I kind of compared it to a falcon, okay? Diving at 242 miles an hour, so very fast, right? With that kick picture from before, you can see I'm fast on my feet and I kick fast. So I'd stick them. And I'm faster with my hands, right? My hands are really what scares the hell out of everybody sparring. And they know they don't have a chance because of my world record hand speed. Now, let's go over here, right? Before we get into some other pictures there. These are Star Wars pictures, right? Luciferian, right? It says Lucifera, right there. Star Wars Rebel. Pause it and find the Lucifera. What's right here? Okay. Here it says New World Order, right? Star Wars, right? And notice all the martial arts comparisons. See, Abraham's being compared to an old Obi-Wan. I've seen pictures where a young Obi-Wan's compared to their false image of Christ. Here we have an Egyptian-like picture with Darth Vader. Okay. Here we have another Egyptian-like picture with Darth Vader. Darth Vader's helmet is modeled after samurais. Here we have, you know, a karate Darth Vader, samurai Vader. Here we have another. It's very much a part of Star Wars, the martial art connections. Again, Luke Skywalker, Anakin Skywalker, Horus the Skywalker, Skywalking, Skylaw King, Skywalker, Skylaw Core. Here we have claimed by the gods, waking the gods, right? Waking. And here we have vampire in denial, right? So they look like vampires. Okay, the undead, because they don't have the spirit of focus, moral intensity in them, the spirit of God. Here we have a movie, and it pained me to have to print this out. It says Voodoo Dawn, right? Horus and the sun, the path of the righteous is like the morning sun, so on and so forth. This guy is a cop who's in this movie. He's attempting to rape this female who was in a Van Damme movie. Okay? And bear with me now. You're going to say, well, what does that matter? It's a coincidence. Well, is it a coincidence that Tears of the Sun, which is about my tribe, specifically the Igbos, during the Nigerian Civil War, okay, here we have this chick here, Monica Bellucci, and she's in a movie with one of the most prolific rape scenes in popular culture, Irreversible. Okay, is that a coincidence? No. Look at his face, right? And that scene right there took place, you know, when she was acting up when there was a massacre in the Igbo village and the women had been raped. Okay? And of course, Serapis, their false image of Christ, is rapes scrambled. Here we have transcendent. How many of you would believe that they're transcendent versus how many would you believe it's like theater arts? Their churches are like theaters and circuses mixed together. I said theater. The Greek theater, right? The Greeks translated the New Testament. Okay? Bear with me, you'll see what I'm saying. Transcendent master. So what does it really mean to be transcendent? What does it really mean to be? Notice they depicted themselves like angels. What does it really mean to be transcendent? Well, notice he's wearing the yellow, the blue, and he's floating in the air, right? Like Horus the Skywalker. Here we have Malcolm X depicted as destroying the white supremacist symbol of a neo-Nazi symbol, you know, the swastika, okay, a symbol of Hitler and the Nazis and so on and so forth. Here we have a transcendent strike, okay, tries king, strike king. Here we have, again, claimed by the gods, and they resemble that chick who is being raped by that cop in that other picture I showed you in that movie. And they resemble the fake Roman image of Horus, and she resembles the Eva Chase book, right, which is a play on words for Av Chase, right, and so on and so forth, C has, and so on and so forth, claimed by the gods, right? Okay. Here we have kind of feminist, kind of Native American-ish, Asian-ish, Narset the Transcendent, right? It says plains walker, right? Walker, right? Traversing the plains, right? Traveling to different spiritual places. Doing what? Doing some kind of martial art activity. Here we have deity of drain, okay? And drained of soul, right? They're poisoning me and fuming me, trying to make it so I resemble this guy or something, okay? When you see this. Now, there's other pictures I want to show you. Like, compare this guy's shape, for example, to... again, background check, background, right? Now, look at that. It's almost like I'm bigger. But look here. Look how small my waist is, right? In that picture, I'm maybe like 180 pounds, 185, 6'4". I'm very fast, very light. But they've gone the distance to confuse that and try to make it seem like I'm more military shape. Here's another picture that kind of sheds light on the difference between me and other people. They made it so it looked more puffy when it was more defined. It's a very defined, very strong picture. In some ways more defined than Bruce Lee. It's a long story why that is. Has to do with anatomy and so on and so forth. Okay. I mean, it gets worse than you think, folks. It gets so much worse. Let's look at this real quick. For example, you remember the picture of Vader resembling some kind of Egyptian person with the headdress? Okay, compare that, right? That is an African pharaoh to, Shaka Zulu, right? You see the difference, right? The pharaoh is, Horus is the deity of pharaohs. He's the deity of war, justice. Okay, the Skywalker, the golden horse. He has various names from various periods in Egyptian history. Okay, and we see this, the leopard society, right? Ambo styles and martial arts. I mean, there's so many connections here that are definitive. This isn't just, oh, that's coincidence. It is definitive when we consider trade routes, Hebrews and Afro-Asiatic language, so on and so forth. Again, they're fueling me heavily. Let me just end by showing you two more pictures. One here is eugenics, right? The philosophy of white supremacy, slaving, right? Eugenics, race. In the Deep South, right? Sex, race, and science. Okay, they want to control who's having sex with who. Okay, and martial arts, the shirt off and then romantic appeal and sexual appeal and so on and so forth. Eugenics and sexual harmony, right? The sons, their relations and problems. Okay, recent fascinating medical discoveries, prevention of disease and special advice for common disorders. And it says tortured by the fear of sex. Okay, so with the eugenics, right, part of it was mental health. A huge part of the eugenic movement was psychiatrists and mental health and trying to sterilize certain black people who had better genes than the white man and certain black people who were mentally ill. So they're trying to improve the white genome and pretend that they're chosen by God and trying to impair the black genome. Of course, Jews and other people were involved.